A longtime rival of Sean Diddy Combs isn't holding back his feelings on the embattled rapper and producer. Curtis Jackson, better known as 50 Cent, has spoken out and at points even trolled Diddy numerous times before and after Diddy was swimming in several lawsuits for alleged sexual misconduct.
The silence didn't break gently. It snapped. One moment everything felt like background noise. Old rumors recycled, half-forgotten tension lingering in the air. The next moment, words were dropped that landed heavy, sharp.
In a new interview recently published by The Hollywood Reporter, the Get Rich or Die Trying rapper isn't mincing words on how he really feels about his arch rival. In the interview, 50 Cent addressed his relationship with Diddy, who faces a number of troubling allegations, including rape, sexual assault, sexual harassment, and sex trafficking over a string of lawsuits. 50 Cent says he's been very vocal about not going to Diddy's now infamous parties, which have been alleged as the site of some of the heinous acts he's been accused of. While referring to Diddy as his old moniker Puffy, 50 Cent said, "I've been very vocal about not going to Puffy parties and doing stuff like that. I've been staying out of that stuff for years. It's an uncomfortable energy connected to it." When asked if someone told 50 Cent if the energy there was off or if he went to something that felt odd, 50 replied, "He asked to take me shopping. I thought that was the weirdest stuff in the world, because that might be something that a man says to a woman." He would go on to say, "From that, I wasn't comfortable around him." 50 Cent would go on to discuss the brutal hotel surveillance video released in May, which showed the Bad Boy founder horrifically attacking his ex-girlfriend Cassie. That incident was mentioned in Cassie's now settled lawsuit against Diddy, in which Diddy allegedly paid $50,000 for the tape. Once that video was made public, Diddy issued a public apology. However, didn't mention Cassie by name. As it's been reported, Diddy is no longer able to say her name publicly as a part of their settlement.
I was f***ed up. I hit rock bottom. But I made no excuses. My behavior on that video is inexcusable. I take full responsibility for my actions in that video. I'm disgusted. I was disgusted then when I did it. I'm disgusted now. I went and I sought out professional help. I had to go into therapy and go into rehab. Had to ask God for His mercy and grace. I'm so sorry. But I'm committed to be a better man each and every day. I'm not asking for forgiveness. I'm truly sorry.
The video was published to Diddy's Instagram, but has since been scrubbed from his page. Diddy's rival 50 Cent had choice words about the brutal video, saying first he denied that even happened, and then the tape comes out, so that means everything that N-word says is a lie. When someone watches that, if they have a daughter and they can imagine her being under those circumstances, that stuff is crazy. Like they let him get away with it. With all the influence and power you have, the person you're with is supposed to be a part of your life, not be forced. 50 Cent has long touted his plans to make a docuseries about his longtime rival. When asked what made 50 want to produce the series, he replied in part, "I'm the only one from hip-hop culture that's produced quality projects." 50 Cent and Diddy have collaborated on a few songs together, and when 50 was an unsigned rapper more than 20 years ago, he used to ghostwrite for the Bad Boy founder. But 50 Cent made it clear the two just worked together. He replied in part, "I wouldn't call it a friendship because there would be disappointment between us if we didn't speak to each other. There's points that we work together." 50 Cent would go on to credit Jennifer Lopez, Diddy's ex-girlfriend, who 50 Cent said told Diddy he would work with him as a songwriter in the beginning of his career. 50 Cent said this occurred when he was getting back to work after being shot several times in May of 2000. He would recall, though, one time when Diddy called and 50's oldest son's mother answered the phone and 50 refused to talk to Diddy. 50 would go on to say he didn't want to answer the phone because he didn't want to ever party or hang out with him. He replied, "Puff is a business person. When people call him a producer, I see people that were taken advantage of who produced things that he took from them. He got credit. He's not a producer. He's been able to take advantage of the business."
And impossible to ignore. Not shouted, not dramatized. Just stated in a way that made people stop scrolling and start listening. When someone who stayed quiet for a long time finally speaks, it hits different. Silence builds expectation. It creates space. And when that space gets filled, the impact multiplies. This wasn't framed as an attack. It wasn't dressed up as revenge. It came across as something closer to unloading weight that had been carried for years. The industry froze for a second, not because everything being said was entirely new, but because of who it was coming from and how little effort was made to soften it. No theatrics, no careful language, just blunt revelations dropped into a world already tense and ready to explode. What stunned people wasn't just the content, it was the timing. Silence had been an option for a long time. Choosing now to speak felt deliberate, like a line being crossed, like someone deciding that whatever protection silence once offered wasn't worth it anymore. The moment those words
noticeably silent on the allegations he faces. That's except for one famous friend, Stephen Jordan, aka Stevie J, who's Diddy's longtime friend. After Rodney Lil Jones Jr. filed his federal lawsuit against Diddy earlier this year, in which he referenced Diddy's infamous parties as seemingly the scene of a number of the allegations he now faces, including sex trafficking, forced drugging, and compromising footage of celebrities that have been held as blackmail. Stevie J seemingly responded with a post to Instagram with the caption, "This is what a real Diddy party looks like." The video showed a number of famous faces, including Jay-Z and Beyonce, Kim Kardashian, her then-husband Kanye West, Naomi Campbell, and several others who were all together to celebrate Diddy's 50th birthday in 2019. Fast forward to 2024, 50 was asked why there have been so many silent voices when it comes to celebs speaking out about Diddy, as if they're afraid to speak up. 50 replied in part, "Some of them were involved at the parties and enjoyed themselves, so they don't know what the F is on the tape or what's not on the tape, so they're not going to say anything because they might have had too much fun." And then you've got other people who look at it and go, "Well, that's not my business and I don't want to be in it." Then you got a part of our culture that says that's snitching or dry snitching. It's uncomfortable for me to say what I said because I've been saying this stuff for 4 or 5 years. Everybody else is not going to be as comfortable as I'm saying it. 50 Cent then alleged there's one famous friend that is aware of Diddy's alleged disturbing behavior. R&B legend Mary J. Blige, who got her start at Diddy's Bad Boy Records, has been a longtime friend of the embattled rapper and producer, but she reportedly has a great relationship with 50 Cent as well. When asked if Mary J. Blige reached out to 50, he responded, No, you know what? Mary never reached out to tell me not to F up Puffy because she knows he does that stuff." As Diddy and 50 Cent have long been in the rap game, they share another commonality, and that's 50 Cent's ex-girlfriend and the mother of his youngest son, Daphne Joy Navarez. The actress and OnlyFans model was named in Rodney Jones' suit against Diddy, as she was referenced to as an alleged sex worker of Diddy's that also gets paid a monthly stipend. She has denied those allegations in a post made to social media, writing, "I am deeply hurt by the lies in Rodney Jones' lawsuit. The claim that I'm a sex worker is 100% false and character assassination. I am retaining an attorney to explore all legal remedies against both Rodney and his attorney." 50 Cent seemingly poked fun at the allegation of the mother of his son being an alleged sex worker. In a post made to his social media page, 50 wrote a caption, "I didn't know you was a sex worker, you little sex worker, LOL." But this would prompt Daphne Joy to respond to her ex again on social media, but this time would accuse 50 directly of rape and being abusive during their relationship. She would write in part, "Everything is a joke to you until our safety is compromised, which is happening now. You are wreaking real havoc, frenzy, and chaos onto people's lives. How would you feel if Sire was the one in handcuffs for nothing? Let's put the real focus on your true evil actions of raping me and physically abusing me. You are no longer my oppressor, and my God will handle you from this point on. You have permanently damaged the last hope I had for you as a father to preserve our family with these last and final false claims made against me. You have broken our hearts for the last and final time." Those allegations against 50 Cent would prompt him to fire back against his ex Daphne Joy and sue her for defamation. In his suit, 50 Cent said those allegations were unequivocally false and would claim she made the shocking allegations in retaliation after he moved to take sole custody of their son. Since that suit, Daphne has deleted her Instagram post accusing 50 of rape and physical abuse. 50 Cent was asked by The Hollywood Reporter the latest in the defamation suit. The rapper and television producer said he tiptoes around the Daphne stuff and explained why. He said, "I got a family court case. The allegations that came out, she posted things to her page saying some crazy stuff. But this comes 8 hours after I filed for custody for my son. And she put that..."
her fist. The reaction followed instantly. Screenshots spread, clips replayed. People leaned in, trying to separate shock from confirmation. Some claimed they'd always known something was off. Others insisted this was all calculated. Same pattern, every time. Divide, defend, dismiss. But underneath all that noise was something harder to ignore. The tone. It wasn't chaotic. It wasn't panicked. It sounded controlled, measured, almost tired, like someone who wasn't trying to win an argument, but was done pretending certain things never happened. That's what made the industry uneasy, not outrage, not insults, calm exposure. Secrets carry power only as long as they stay hidden. Once spoken aloud, they stop belonging to one person, they become shared, and shared knowledge threatens systems that depend on silence to survive. The revelations didn't come with evidence laid out neatly, they came as statements, memories, implications, enough to make people uncomfortable, but not enough to provide easy answers. And discover
up in response to that, and I'm like, ugh. In this climate, you know how quickly they pass judgment. Things have worked out since she said those things. He went on to add, I'd like to respond and say some wild stuff, but I've got to sustain that for my son. 50 was asked if he was worried about the allegations, especially given he's making a docuseries about an alleged abuser. And 50 replied, it is damaging. It is damaging just to have anything said about you at this point, because you have people out there who don't believe your intentions. And if things are going in a positive direction for you and something pops, they gasp. He went on to say for entertainment purposes, they exploit that as much as possible, but there's no merit to it. But one thing 50 wasn't asked was if he believed Diddy would be formally charged and or potentially indicted for the many allegations he still faces. But attorney Ben Chu, who represented Johnny Depp during his trial against Amber Heard, says he does see an indictment coming down in Diddy's future.
I agree with that. I mean, obviously, I don't have any inside information. I don't think many people do, but I do think the signs are ominous. These are very grave matters. As you know, there have been 2 raids on his properties, and that's obviously very ominous signs for him. Although, interestingly, we haven't seen the indictments yet. There's been some time lag. I suppose it will take some time to go through all the forensic, evidence, but still, these are very serious matters. So, I think he faces some serious reckoning.
Diddy faces a staggering number of civil lawsuits for sexual misconduct, 10 that have been filed since last November. Former adult film star Adria English filed her suit on July 3rd of this year, claiming she was first employed by Combs in 2004 and was groomed into sex trafficking over time. In May of this year, April Lampros filed her lawsuit against Combs, accusing him of battery and sexual assault. 2 days prior to Lampros' suit being filed, Crystal McKinney also filed a suit against Diddy. McKinney alleges she met Combs at a studio where he gave her a lace joint, alcohol, then forced her to the bathroom and forced her to perform oral sex on him. Rodney Jones Jr. filed his lawsuit in federal court in February of this year that accuses Combs and the people who work with him of being part of an illegal racketeering enterprise. He also accused Diddy of sex trafficking, sexual assault, and harassment. Then there's a suit filed by a woman under the moniker Jane Doe, which was filed in December of 2023. Doe alleges she was gang raped and sex trafficked by Combs and former Bad Boy Records president Harve Pierre when she was just 17 years old and in the 11th grade. Liza Gardner filed her lawsuit against Combs and R&B singer Aaron Hall in November of 2023, alleging the two forced her to have sex with them against her will when she was 16 years old. On the same day Gardner's suit was filed, another suit was filed, this one by Joy Dickerson Neal. She alleges Combs intentionally drugged her, then sexually assaulted her and recorded the assault. And then there's the only lawsuit that has been settled, a mere day after it was filed in federal court, and that's the federal lawsuit filed by Diddy's ex-girlfriend, singer and actress Cassandra Ventura, aka Cassie. In Cassie's now settled lawsuit against her ex, she accused Diddy of sexual assault, battery, sex trafficking, and requiring her to engage in forced sexual acts. Since the ongoing suits, Diddy has appeared to be living his life. He's been pictured biking around South Beach, getting onto his lavish private jet, and even whitewater rafting. But for his accusers, it hasn't been sitting well. After the photos were made public of Diddy seemingly enjoying his summer vacation in Wyoming, Cassie's
comfort is dangerous because it forces people to think instead of react. Some listeners immediately tried to discredit everything. They called it bitterness, old grudges, attention-seeking. That reaction was predictable. When long-standing power structures get questioned, the first instinct is to attack the messenger. Others went the opposite direction. They treated every word like confirmation of suspicions they'd been carrying for years. To them, this wasn't shocking at all. It was overdue. They saw the silence breaking as validation, not revelation. And then there was the largest group, the quiet observers, the ones who didn't post immediately, who watched reactions unfold before forming opinions. Because what was being said wasn't light, it wasn't gossip. It touched nerves that run deep through the industry. The shock came from the implication that certain behaviors weren't isolated incidents, but patterns, that what people dismissed as rumors might have been warnings ignored because ignoring them was more convenient. That idea alone.
Lawyer Douglas Wigder released a statement to TMZ saying, quote, "I don't think white water rafting will prepare him for the choppy waters that lie ahead." Adria English, Diddy's most recent accuser's attorney, also weighed in, saying after seeing defendant Combs white water rafting and jetting around on his personal plane, seemingly enjoying his life despite all the atrocities he has caused and has been accused of by countless individuals over decades, Miss English is even more motivated to ensure justice prevails. But attorney Ben Chu explains Diddy's recent appearances might just be a front.
Yeah, I mean, I think I think it does show that it's consistent with the image that he's not concerned about this, that he will survive it all. But I think within there must be a certain amount of concern. I think whenever you have a video or audio tape, and we've all seen the very disturbing videotape. I mean, it's very hard to watch. I mean, I didn't even watch the whole thing. It was too disturbing. And from an attorney's point of view, as you and I can appreciate and your viewers can appreciate, it's really hard to explain away audio tape. It's almost impossible to explain away videotape. And that's just damning evidence. It almost doesn't matter what you say, because any human being looking at that is going to find that wildly disturbing. And all you can really say, I suppose, if you were the person depicted, is that you just are horrendously sorry about it. And that's really all you can do, unless you're challenging the authenticity of it. And I think that'll be difficult as well.
As Diddy's arch rival 50 Cent is set to produce what could be a highly anticipated docuseries about the ongoing allegations Diddy still faces even to this day, Chu says the series could shed more light.
It'll be fascinating because the documentary will be done by somebody who does have actual knowledge of the subject. So on the one hand, maybe he lacks a certain objectivity that a documentarian who doesn't know Diddy might have. On the other hand, he probably has insights into Diddy that will make it all the more interesting for people like us to watch. I mean, I think I'm looking forward to seeing it. I'll be fascinated because I do think he has insights. I do think 50 Cent seems like an incredibly thoughtful person, in addition to being obviously an incredibly talented rapper. And it seems like he has a lot of interest and a lot of skills.
As Diddy's accusers hope for justice in their cases, Chu says while he does believe an indictment still nears for Sean Diddy Combs, he said if it's the case that criminal charges are not pursued, there's still a path forward for Diddy's accusers.
I think it would be demoralizing. On the other hand, the civil standard of proof, as you know, is much more lenient. So I could see a prosecutor, even a prosecutor who believed in his guilt, might make the correct decision not to prosecute, because, as you know, to prosecute, you have to believe not only that the person is guilty, but also that you're likely to be able to prove it. So you could have a prosecutor who cares about victims and cares about justice.
If was enough to shake things up, because if patterns exist, responsibility spreads. It's no longer about one person. It's about environments, about systems that reward silence and punish those who speak too soon or too loudly. The industry thrives on image, on curated stories, on controlled narratives, and nothing threatens image like someone refusing to play along anymore. What made this moment even heavier was the lack of backtracking. No clarifications, no walkbacks, no taken out of context, just standing on what was said and letting the reaction happen. That kind of confidence unsettles people, because it suggests preparation, it suggests intention, it suggests that silence wasn't broken impulsively, but strategically. The revelations also forced a lot of people to confront their own roles, who laughed things off, who stayed quiet, who benefited from not asking questions. When silence breaks, it doesn't just expose one story, it reflects many. Some tried to shift the focus, to change
And I think that just again, her knowing about his violence, his propensity for violence, his behavior with her, his behavior with Cassie, his behavior with other employees, he's just continually in reinforcing that violence. So I think it was a really good moment for the government.
Yeah, it's just, and it seems like there are these little moments along the way where there are some celebrity names that pop up. This case, it was 50
Hmm.
Cent. We heard earlier in the trial, Usher and Neo were at a dinner where Cassie was allegedly assaulted. It was unclear whether they saw that, but it was said that they were there. As far as the history of 50 Cent and Diddy, do we know how it started? I know that 50 Cent had a diss track, I think around 2006, claiming that
Hmm.
Sean Combs knew who killed Biggie Smalls, but is there a particular incident that happened that made 50 Cent just seem to really start to come at Sean Combs?
I don't know what's ground zero for them. I've seen, interviews that 50 has given saying that it's all business with them. I know they both have alcohol lines, and I know, they're both from New York. I think 50 is maybe from Queens and Diddy is from Harlem. I don't know what their ground zero is, but I know that since this since this all came out, 50 has not stopped. He's been taunting Diddy online. You of course know about the documentary. I believe it got picked up by Netflix, and he is supposedly donating the proceeds to victims of domestic violence. Diddy has had his knee on his neck and his foot to the gas on Diddy for a while, but again, I don't know where it started.
Yeah, I mean, 50 Cent, for many people, if it was ever, there was an anecdote that came out that someone had said, oh, I like guns when talking about it back and forth, it might scare you. 50 Cent was at the
Mhm.
Knicks Pacers game in Indiana with a free Diddy t-shirt on, sitting courtside the next day. That's
Was
just,
he?
it's different. It was, yeah, it was different.
Mhm.
I look back and we aired a bit kind of leading into this interview, a clip from the Breakfast Club. It was 2018 and Diddy was on the show and they asked about the issues that he had with 50 Cent. And he said, there's no issues. I love him. He loves me.
Mhm.
He was kind of joking about it. And then you hear these stories that come out, whether it's this one specifically
Mhm.
about 50 Cent or just in general, the picture that's being painted by the government in this trial. For you, has kind of the image of Sean Combs and who you thought he was, has it changed during the course of what we've seen over the last couple of weeks?
Certainly over the course of what we've seen, but I think I've seen an interview where 50 said, if you want to go nowhere, go to Diddy. If you're ready for your career to die, go to Diddy. It's long been rumored that Diddy didn't necessarily treat his artists properly, and if you look through his roster of artists, you'll see a lot of individuals whose careers probably started off really, really well, but they ended up with no money. That's long been the rumor. There've been rumors of abuse by Diddy toward Cassie and toward Kim and some other women as well. Even when he was at, I think Uptown is where he originally started. So there've always been rumors, but nothing really solidified and verified like we've had in this trial. It's been awful. I think it would be awful for anyone. I don't think his reputation is in the business world certainly will never recover.
The subject, to distract with jokes or unrelated drama, but the weight of what was said kept dragging the conversation back. You can't unhear certain things once they're out. What's striking is how quickly the industry went into damage control mode. Not publicly, but subtly, conversations changed, invitations shifted, people suddenly became very careful about what they said and who they were seen with. That reaction alone told its own story. The shock wasn't about surprise, it was about confirmation, about someone saying out loud what many whispered behind closed doors but never dared to attach their voice to. Breaking silence like that comes with risk, reputational risk, professional risk, personal risk, which is why silence lasts as long as it does. When someone decides the risk is worth it, it signals that something has fundamentally shifted. The revelations didn't arrive as a neat exposé, they arrived as fragments, enough to disrupt comfort, not enough to satisfy curiosity, and that frustration kept people engaged, replaying the words, looking for meaning between lines. Industry insiders reacted differently than the public, where audiences expressed shock, insiders expressed tension, Because they understand the unspoken rules.
And even if he's found not guilty, his name is mud. I don't think that it's recoverable. I think everybody is extremely shocked, especially just some of the sexually explicit things. We have a huge morality issue in America. So anything that's like a little deviant is just not going to be really good for you. So I think everybody's a little shocked. I'm a little shocked and appalled and horrified, and I think a lot of people are. But this is not what we knew. We knew some things weren't right, but we didn't know just how wrong they were.
And I feel like we just knew because I mean, we all grew up, whether it was, some of the roles he had in movies, and I mean, he was everywhere, and then his brands were everywhere. And it's like Making the Band was such like a hit show on MTV back in the
Hmm.
day. And there's that famous scene where he has all the contestants walk to Brooklyn to go get, I think it was Junior's cheesecake. And he's yelling at
Hmm.
people. And then it seemed like everyone around him in any documentary that he did, it was like, oh, that's just Puff because he's always just so angry. And then it's just this whole other level in the trial where it just, as an attorney, I mean, how effective has the government been as you just read, and we can only read transcripts really and kind of hear from the people we
Hmm.
have in the courtroom, but just at this point, how effective has the government been in painting the picture of this isn't just someone who was a domestic abuser, this isn't someone who was just a mean boss, but this was a racketeer who was running a criminal enterprise.
Hmm. Yeah, and I think the forced labor issue. I think they've done an excellent job with that. With the transcripts I've been reading, a lot of the people are saying that they worked for 20 hours, like that's the magic number, 20 hours straight. They, on a good day, we heard you'll get 4 hours of sleep. On a bad day, you'll get 4 hours of sleep. I think one of the what is it, a bodyguard said, if you sleep you're getting fired, like it was more rhythmical or rhythmic than that. I don't know, but you couldn't sleep around him, and I think that's what we saw with Making the Band. But again, we really didn't believe it. We thought it was for entertainment purposes. We didn't think someone could really act like this. And if an employee gave any pushback, uh, they would either be terminated or they'd be threatened with reputational damage. They would be threatened with being blackballed, or they actually would be blackballed. And I think the government is doing an excellent job of proving forced labor.
And on that forced labor part, because on one hand, and I found it interesting, like George Kaplan, who is a former personal assistant for Diddy, like detailed all these, witnessing the abuse, he said, of Cassie. And then he was someone who would start work at 9:30 in the morning. And I think he said sometimes he went home at 7 o'clock in the morning the next day. And that's just what it was like. And he still, at the end of his testimony, said something along the lines of, he respects Diddy as this business person. In the eyes of the law and in this trial, what's the line between, well, this was a guy who just worked his employees really hard, to the point of where it was a forced labor issue where he was breaking the law?
So I think the perfect forced labor issue is, I think, Mia's testimony that we read through today. And I think it's really easy for someone to say, well, hey, why don't you just leave? Well, one of the elements with forced labor is, if you leave, you're threatened with reputational damage, you're threatened with being blackballed, you're threatened with psychological manipulation.
They know how much effort goes into keeping certain doors closed. A silence break like this threatens more than one reputation. It threatens the illusion of control. There's also the uncomfortable truth that secrets don't shock people forever. What shocks them is who tells them. When someone known for surviving, adapting, and outlasting finally speaks, the message carries extra weight. It suggests endurance, and endurance implies credibility, whether fair or not. The reaction revealed how divided trust really is. Some people trust power, others trust resistance, and moments like this force those two instincts to clash publicly. What's undeniable is that the industry didn't shrug this off. It paused, it recalibrated, because even if nothing else comes from it, the silence is gone, and once silence is broken, it never fully returns. People will argue about motives endlessly, they always do, but motives don't erase impact. Words landed, conversations shifted, and that shift can't be undone. The revelations also challenged the idea that time buries everything. Time only buries what people agree not to dig up. When someone decides to start digging again, the past resurfaces fast. The shock wasn't loud screaming, it was a low, heavy silence that followed. The kind where people stop joking and start thinking. The kind where industry confidence falters. And that's why this moment matters. Not because of scandal, not because of drama, but because it disrupted comfort. Breaking silence is powerful not because it reveals everything, but because it proves that more can be revealed. The industry thrives on control of narrative. This moment reminded everyone that control is conditional, that it depends on cooperation, and cooperation can end at any time. What happens next is uncertain. Silence might return, or it might fracture further. More voices might speak, or pressure might push everything back into the shadows. But one thing is clear, the stunned reaction wasn't an overreaction, it was recognition. Recognition that something long protected by quiet was finally spoken aloud. And once words like that exist in the open, the industry can never pretend it didn't hear them. The silence is broken. And broken silence has a way of echoing far longer than anyone expects.